Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. The Manchester City court case has been running for a few weeks now. Where are we? Well, where we are is there's no way back. There was a big update last week that a lot of people got excited about. We've waited on that because there has been some updates in the last few hours about it and how that could impact the Manchester City case. 115, 116, 130 charges. It's big. And I think ultimately we'll talk about that in a moment because I don't know whether anybody's really grasping this, but one way or another, there will be an outcome. And that outcome is basically making this the trial of the century when it comes to the Premier League because the outcomes, whichever way, will be huge for football. But where are we and what are we in relation to what happened last week? Well, the bottom line is the actual case that's going on between the Premier League and Man City is watertight. There is no public updates on it. And what happened last week is that the APT rules that the Premier League are trying to bring in, associated party transactions, which is basically like, it would be like Newcastle having Visit Saudi Arabia on their shirt and being paid £1 billion a week because obviously they're owned by Saudi. You can't do that. The Premier League have rules in place where deals that you do must go into what they call a data bank at the Premier League where they assess each sponsorship deal of every Premier League club to make sure that it is market value. And the Manchester City basically voted or took a case to court with the Premier League separately to the one they have at the moment, saying that it's not fair. This would be massively beneficial for somebody like Newcastle because obviously they are very, very rich, like Manchester City. They're the richest football club in the world, but they're struggling to get the money into Newcastle because of FFP and PSR. You can't just throw in £1 billion if it doesn't match the revenue or fair market value, etc. So last week, this story came out and it would have had massive ramifications for the Premier League, but also for Newcastle, also for Man City, and could have had a big impact on their court case for the charges that they have, because a lot of those are based on getting money into the club in a way that wasn't fair. So if Man City challenge that rule and win it, then it could help that case as well. Now, last week, a lot of people were reporting that Man City had won that case. Reports on Thursday linked the decision to pull a vote connected to that data bank and the APT as a reason or an indication that Man City had actually won. The tool is used by the club for boards to assess fair market value, like I said. And the reports indicated a potential victory for Man City. However, it's understood the change would not have been a substantive one, even if it had been voted through, with sources close to the meeting describing it as minor. The APT rules are designed to ensure that commercial deals with entities linked to a club's owners are done for fair market value. Man City's case was heard by an arbitration panel under Section X of the Premier League rules, where any decision made remains private. The hearing was held over 2 weeks in June. However, under Rule X31, the chair of the panel, with the parties' consent, can share an anonymised summary of the ruling where it's considered to have a wider application to other clubs. A Man City victory surely would trigger that rule, which the clubs would need to be made aware of. However, they haven't. Therefore, it's felt that whatever happened in that challenge from Man City, it was minor and hasn't had a big impact on the APT rules, which means that if you are Newcastle or you are Man City, it's not like that's going to get completely abandoned. You can suddenly put Visit Saudi Arabia on your shirt and get £1 billion a day for it. So that doesn't look like it's going to help Man City on the basis of what we're hearing, which is why I wanted to wait a bit of time before reacting to it, because obviously this is just very, very complex, but it's separate. It's separate to the court case that's going on, but it would have helped Man City if that had been abandoned rule by the Premier League. As we understand it, it's still there. There might be minor changes, but it's still there. If you've got a sponsorship deal, it still needs to be assessed by the Premier League for fair market value. Now we've spoken about that, and if you want to read that article, by the way, it's on football365.com. Very interesting article that's come out today. But let's take it more to a simplistic level. I actually think that what's going on here is starting to divide. Some people are sort of like, well, that rule shouldn't exist. It's not fair. It would help Newcastle and Man City, of course. But my stance on this is that we have a Premier League that we want to be competitive. And if you have a rich owner, and that rich owner, say, for example, owns Amazon, and they say, I want to put Amazon on the sleeve, I want to put it on the shirt, I want to put it on the stadium, and I want to put it on the training kit, and I want to pay £1 billion a week to my club for that, which means £52 billion a year is going into my club. That's basically what Man City and Newcastle would benefit from. And the Premier League, and morally, football is right to say, hold on a minute. One of the biggest shirt sponsors we've seen in recent years was TeamViewer for Man United at £60 million a year. You want to put Amazon on your shirt for £1 billion a month or a year. It's completely not fair market value. You are clearly using a business that you own to funnel money into your club. It's a free-for-all. Now, some people would say, well, that's just the way it should be. The richest people should be able to chuck their money in. But it would destroy the fundamentals of football, because it won't just be one club doing it. It'll be 3 or 4 clubs doing it. And then you'd have revenue of billions in Man City, Newcastle, and maybe PSG. And they'd go and knock on the door of, let's say, Vinicius Jr. at Real Madrid and say, we're not going to give you £1 million a week. We're going to give you £10 million a week. And suddenly, you'd bone the bloody doors off. So I think that regardless of where Man City fans might be thinking they hope they win that, moralistically, I think football, these APT rules, associated party transactions, do need... It's very much like the VAR. I think VAR should be an independent regulation away from the referees, so there's no crossover. And I think we should have a data bank central point that's independent, that assesses... The Premier League, at the end of the day, is a club. It's an organisation. There's not a divine right that you're in the Premier League, and if you want to play in the Premier League, then we should have rules. And I definitely think there should be some relaxations around, certainly if Man City get found not guilty, they're so far ahead, you need to open the doors up for other clubs to be able to get money in. But I don't think a free-for-all on sponsorship deals is the way to go. I personally think there are other ways that we can do it, where other clubs, if they've got the money, can get it in. But I don't think we should have, you can start, sponsoring the car park for £1 billion a week or something stupid. I don't think we should. I don't think we should be doing that. But it is very interesting, and also, whilst it looks like that's very minor now, a week ago a lot of people thought it might be quite big and have a big impact on the bigger case. On the bigger case, not really anything to report, but I do want to open the conversation up. What are your thoughts on this Man City against the Premier League thing? Because you can want them to get guilty. You can want them to be found not guilty. If they get found not guilty, they have the biggest revenue in the Premier League. They've won multiple Premier League titles. They've got the best manager. They've got the best squad, and they will be able to spend freely for forever. I don't think anyone's going to stop them. If they get found guilty, dependent on what the charge is, there's all sorts of potential ramifications, from relegation to, fines, points deduction. My personal feeling is if they get found guilty, the last 10 years of the Premier League has no integrity. So there's huge ramifications. And I think what people need to realise is there's no way back. Whatever the world was before this court case about we think Man City have cheated, or we don't think Man City have cheated, or they're dominating football, where we're going to be after this, we're never going to go back to where we were before. And I would just prepare yourself for that, because one way or another, the outcome is a sad one. I think it's a sad one for genuine Man City fans if their club ends up broken. And I think it's a sad one for the Premier League if Man City come out of it and are able to just carry on doing what they've done for the last 10 years, because I don't think anyone can touch them from a competitive element. So I think it's really interesting. And I think people need to start thinking about that. What outcome would I like? It doesn't really matter, because I don't know the outcome. I don't know. I'm not involved in the court case. I don't know the evidence. I sort of do know the evidence, to be honest. I think we all know the evidence, and I think we all know something's gone wrong, but we don't know how severely that evidence is going to be tested. And if it's found to be legitimate, we don't know how severely they're going to punish them. If the integrity of the last 10 years is up for grabs, then the amount of titles that have been won, I think there has to be a punishment that is not a points deduction. I think there has to be a removal. And I'm very much of the opinion they should end up down in League Two or the National League and start from there. I think there has to be you can't just start next season with 30 points deduction. You can't just put them into the championship because it's 1 year winning every week and then you're back. I think it has to be something more than that. But if they get found not guilty, it has to be a line underneath it as well. You know, there can't be any revisits of this. So they've got to get it right first time. And it's going to be very, very interesting. Get your comments in below. Smash a like on the video. Speak to you on the next one.